now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Right on, dude. How was Caldera?
What do you use for video?
I use GridFam. I will also do that here shortly.
I need to turn your audio on and
Yeah, hold on a second. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, it's not. My apologies here. DMing you it right there.
What's your GridFam thingy?
That should be the link right there. I just sent it to you.
I can hear you.
I just sent it to you.
Okay.
I am going to. Let's see here. All right, I'm just gonna stop the music for just a second here while we get this sorted. Let's see here. All right, so let's see here. I'm assuming you are calling in. You are. Okay, accept. Perfect. All right. Let's see if I can see you. And all right.
Freaking bright.
Okay, so you're just gonna see a black screen on GridFam. If you want to see me, you can check out the stream. Let's see. The notes that I have. Just updated it with, excuse me, I just updated it with a link right at the very top, right next to intro. It has all the slides that I'll be using, so you can take a look at those when we're doing it. And then also at the bottom, when we're doing matchup previews, I have a link to each matchup. So if that works you should be able to see our league since it's public, and you won't have to squint at the tiny stream, so, or whatever. So, cool.
Yes, sir.
Right on. All right. I don't think there's anything else that, I mean, do you have any questions or anything like that? Or you think we're going to be ready to get this thing going?
We're good to go, dude.
Right on. Right on, right on. Okay, I'm gonna mute you, and then I'm gonna play my intro song. I'll say a few words, and I'll bring you in. So.
Go.
No. You know what? I did that whole thing, and guess what? I don't know.
Muted?
Yeah, I probably muted myself. So, I mean, I've done that once or twice in my life. So
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, so cool. So I'm just going to start it all over again and say, hey, what's going on? It's Thursday, December 9th, 2021. We are the Victorious POD. We are live. We are a podcast. We are a live stream. And I'm not joined by my buddy Jack today. As you can see, I am joined by my good buddy here, Face Esquire. Face, say hello to all the beautiful people out there on YouTube.
What's going on, everybody? Walters, appreciate you having me on. Good to be here, man. Ready to talk some ball.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. So first off, just wanted to say real quick, I want to say thank you to everybody who has donated to the Victorious POD. If you would like to donate, you can donate to us at www.streamlabs.com/thevictoriouspod. I would like to give a special thanks to Levi Oki. He is the one who designed all of our beautiful artwork that you see on all of our social media pages. You can find Levi Oki on Instagram at Levi Oki Illustration. Before we get to know you a little bit, Face, do you have any like announcements, or do you want me to like wait till the end of the podcast for and announcements that you might have?
Do whatever you want to, man. I'm just chilling. All
right, sounds good. We are going to roll right on into to our next segment then, which is going to be getting to know Face Esquire here real quick. For those who don't know, I met Face Esquire. He was part of a Drop Shot podcast community that I'm also a part of. The Drop Shot podcast is a Call of Duty podcast, if anybody is unaware of. And we first met in a late night Discord hangout, and I'm pretty sure you and Jay Webb, your lovely assistant, were arguing about something, and most likely alcohol was involved, if I'm not mistaken. But I soon learned that you had your own podcast projects with Jay Webb, and that was the Political Hacks. And then later on, you and Jimbo Slice came with a fantasy football podcast called the Fantasy Football Hacks. And just to let everybody know that you can find both of those podcasts on YouTube. And if you want to watch them live, they are streamed on Twitch at Face Esquire. So am I missing anything there? I think I got all that right. So
should be on all your favorite podcast app. Yeah, the Drop Shot podcast. That's a bunch of degenerate alcoholic gamers over there. That's my kind of people, so we get along really well. But yeah, they're a cool little community. And yeah, Political Hacks and Fantasy Football Hacks, your favorite podcast app on YouTube. There you go.
Right on. Okay. So let me just ask you real quick. How are your podcast projects coming along this year so far? Like, are you meeting expectation? Are you exceeding expectation? Is there more to be desired? Your thoughts on your podcast career so far?
I will say this for whoever listens to this thing, unless you've actually done a podcast, it is a lot more work than you think. A lot of behind the scenes work goes into it, and a lot of prep goes into it. So appreciate you doing this for us, Walters. Bit slow growth for both of them. Political Hacks has been around, I think we started in April. So it's been slow growth, slow but steady. Getting a little bit bigger. We're starting to figure out what we're doing a little more and what direction we're going in. Me and Jimbo just started doing Fantasy Football Hacks probably a month or two ago.
Yeah.
So we're still very much in the discovery process of that, and we're going to try to do some tuning in the off season, which is right around the corner. But it'll get there eventually. I think next year we'll be ready to go full steam on it.
Right on. My next question that I have for you is like more fantasy related. So I guess it's just a few softball questions here. How long have you been playing fantasy football, and how long have you been a fan of football yourself?
Well, I'm a boomer, so I started playing like whenever I was mid-college, probably 2007, 2008, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Me and I played baseball in college. Me and a bunch of my baseball buddies started a league that is still together today. And that's how I keep in touch with all my college buddies. Is we got a league and pretty serious about it, and pretty big little pot there, so everyone takes it seriously. And we got pretty good punishments too, so no one quits paying attention either. So that's kind of how you do it. But yeah, we love it, man.
Nice.
I'm in 3 leagues right now, so
3 leagues, okay, and then how many championships have you brought home?
I think I've brought home 3, and 2 of those were in 2018. I won 2 different leagues in 2018. That was a good year. That was I had a lot of Saquon and Antonio Brown that year. That was the last year of Antonio Brown's sanity, and he went off, and it was fantastic for if you own him in fantasy. So
yeah, you are answering my questions even before I ask them. So that is awesome.
oh my bad.
That's who, in your opinion, this year, who is going to be this year's fantasy MVP?
Well, what are we? Week 14 now.
Yeah.
At this point, you know, a month ago I would have said Derrick Henry easy, and then he got hurt. Obviously, he was a clear MVP. But now I'm not even sure we totally know who the MVP is going to be. I think it may yet to be seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks here. If I had to pick, I mean, obviously Jonathan Taylor, he's having a fantastic year. I didn't believe in him before the year. He's been awesome. Just there's nothing bad you can say about him. Another one, maybe for, you know, if you're going to go calculate draft position into that question, you might go Cooper Kupp, honestly, because Cooper Kupp, where he was drafted, what was he in snake drafts? Probably a 4 to 6 round guy.
Yeah.
And he's number 1 wide receiver, no doubt. Whereas Jonathan Taylor, I think, was still a 2nd or 3rd round guy. So you might could argue Cooper Kupp on that, honestly.
One thing that I've been thinking about, shoot, wrong one. Here we go. One thing that I've been thinking about is like off-season podcasts. Like, what am I going to be able to do? Because I think I've talked about it a little bit. Is I want to be able to maybe have a podcast, or I want to have a podcast. Not maybe. I'm going to have a podcast in the off-season, and it's got to be fantasy related. I don't watch a ton of college football, so I'm going to need some help from a lot of outside people for that. But like one of the things that a project that I'm definitely going to be working on is looking over my draft in our league of record here, the Victorious Secret Fantasy Football League, and I'm going to see if I can like just break down the draft. Who did you pick that basically outperformed where they got picked? Who was your giant dud for the year? So I think I'm going to try and work on some metrics like that to be able to provide some fun content coming in the off season. But you know,
I'll tell you one thing I always do in the off season, usually in the summer when there's no fantasy football podcasts out and there's nothing going on, I'm bored, I'm looking for podcasts to listen to. So I'll go back and I'll listen to like the Footballers or some other like prominent fantasy football podcast, and I'll listen to like their fantasy drafts, the mock drafts they do, and how they think about players. And obviously, like, it's like 50-50 whether or not that player worked out. But you can learn from that. You say, oh, before this, because we have such short memories in fantasy football. But whenever you go back and actually listen to what people thought of players before the season started, and then, you know, we've got our expectations as the season progresses. We figure out who they actually are. But you can learn a lot by going back and listening to old podcasts like that and seeing what went wrong for those players.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the reason I went on that whole tangent is because you mentioned players that have outperformed their draft position. So that just kind of made me think of, you know, hey, these are some of the things that the Victorious POD is going to be wanting to work on here in the off season. So if that's exciting to you guys, that's great. My last question for you before we get into it, who would you consider this year's fantasy dud or bust? I mean, it's the same thing. It just depends on which word you want to use.
I was thinking about this one earlier. The one clear answer that comes to my mind is Allen Robinson. What happened to Allen Robinson, man? I have no idea what happened to him. I watch him play. When his hamstring isn't popped, he looks fine. He looks normal. It's got to be the quarterback situation there. But, I mean, he was a 2nd or 3rd rounder, and he's done absolutely nothing. When healthy, he was wide receiver 70-something, 60 or 70, just awful. I have no idea what happened because he's been good in every situation. He was good with Blake Bortles, just one of the worst quarterbacks, almost as bad as Matt Ryan. And he's also been good with Trubisky, and now he's not good anymore. Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, you know, that is one of the biggest questions that I've had this fantasy season. What happened to him? I can't think that Justin Fields would just ignore the talent of him. So it really leads me to believe that it's a coaching thing, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
got to be a coaching
I agree with
thing.
that. Yeah.
But my joke has always been that Allen Robinson didn't take Justin Fields out to breakfast, and now, he's never going to see a pass from him. So it's really hard to say what happened there. But like I said, I think it's probably all Matt Nagy, because nothing else makes sense to me. So
I think we solved it because Cooper Kupp takes Matt Stafford out to breakfast. They eat breakfast together, and obviously Allen Robinson hadn't been doing that. So I think we figured out fantasy football just there. We can end the pod.
All right. Good night. All right. Skull. All right. Moving on. We are going to be moving into our NFL segment here, part of the podcast. And before we get into our pick'em results and anything, I just wanted to ask Face Esquire, was there anything this past week that you found interesting, whether it's any of the headlines leading into the week 14, or was there anything from week 13 that was interesting that happened in your eyes?
Dalvin Cook might play tonight. I think that's pretty interesting. The dude separated his shoulder like 9 days ago, and he's going to play right now. And I think he's also got a torn labrum or something in his other shoulder. Like, that dude's a freaking truck. He's a beast, dude, if you can play through that pain.
So I guess
I thought that was pretty interesting. I was expecting him, because I've got him and Madison in several leagues. Yeah. And I actually traded Madison in the Hacks League. I traded Madison off last week on a whim, and it ended up working out because Cook's back already. Who knew? I didn't know.
Yeah, they talked about it a lot today on the radio here in Minneapolis. And he would be playing. I can't believe it, but it's, I guess it's happening. So we'll see. Am I going to play him? I don't know. Would you play him tonight? I mean,
he's in my starting lineup in my home league. I've got him and Madison. Yeah. If Dalvin, like, I do the old Chris Harris philosophy. Like, what can you live with? So, like, you could start Madison and see what happens and hope that. But if Cook goes off for 4 touchdowns on my bench, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. Right. So I'm just going to start him and not think about it.
Yep. Nope. That's the play. If you have Madison, you are definitely pulling out your hair right now, because you have no idea what's going to happen, and most likely it's not going to be good. There was a blurb that I saw that Dalvin Cook actually had, like, he was playing with this same type of injury, with the same sort of like contraption. Let's see. I'm just bringing it up here on my phone here real quick. I do have it here.
Apparently he's got like a history of separated shoulders, and the footballers were saying like, oh, well, that means he'll know how to deal with the pain and actually know how he's feeling and that sort of stuff. I'd be like, man, I'd rather just not have a separated shoulder. That'd be way better. But whatever.
This might make you cringe a little bit here, but according to the Fantasy Life, according to Fantasy Life, Vikings running back Dalvin Cook will play tonight versus the Steelers with the shoulder harness, just as he did during the Saints in January of 2020, the wild card game, which was the Minneapolis. That was the Minneapolis.
No, he wasn't in the league then.
He had 31 touches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns with the harness. Let's go.
You bring me on your podcast and then want to slander my boys. What a piece of trash.
Okay, first off, I didn't see the whole blurb, and I didn't realize it was the Saints. I understand you are a Saints guy, and you can, what? In all fairness, you can come on our show and rip Kirk Cousins. It's a take.
We'll get into it later.
It's fair. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. All right. So we're gonna be moving on. Let's see what we got here. We do have our NFL pick'em here. Last week, again, these pictures are available at the link in the notes if you want to look at them. So
I'm with you.
Last week, I'm missing 3 picks, so you guys are all automatically given Atlanta. So you guys all got L's last week. So that would be Brandon, Luke, and Jared. So apologies, but I'm glad you guys got your picks in this week. So this week we have Jack. He is choosing the Chargers over the Giants. I am picking Green Bay over Chicago. Connor is picking Pittsburgh over Minnesota. Alex, you are picking the Saints over the Jets along with Foster. Garlic, you are picking the Kansas City Chiefs over the Vegas Raiders. Brandon is picking Carolina over Atlanta. Luke is picking Pittsburgh over Minnesota. Justin is also picking, he is picking the opposite. He is picking Chicago over Green Bay. And then Jared is picking Tennessee over Jacksonville. Do you have a favorite game this week, Face, that you think would be a lock to win?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, Pittsburgh over Minnesota.
Obviously.
No, I mean, I want to say that New Orleans Jets game, but I can't do it anymore, dude. We can't score points. So I'm gonna go with Green Bay over Chicago. I think it's probably my favorite matchup. I don't see any way Green Bay loses that game.
I don't see it either. I've been saving Green Bay for something like this, so it's later into the year. I have it. I'm going to use it. I will say,
is it true if you don't use it, you lose it?
Well, not exactly, but I mean, there have been instances like last week where if you picked Minnesota to win, they lost to a winless team, but that's neither here nor there. I will say that I will say that New Orleans, I feel like if Alvin Kamara is able to come back and Taysom Hill doesn't look like trash, real game, he can do well for fantasy. That's fine. But I feel like if those two guys are on point, you guys should have no problems beating the Jets. I just feel like the athleticism and the talent of Kamara is more than enough to overcome what the New York Jets have defensively. So I mean, I would feel safe.
I hope we lose. I'm playing for draft picks now as a Saints fan because you know this. Everyone rips on Jameis Winston. And I don't want to make this a Saints show, but I want to say this because it needs to be said. Everyone rips on Jameis Winston and how bad he is. You know the Saints have not won a game since he got injured. They were 5-3 whenever he got hurt, and they haven't won a game since. So if you think Jameis Winston's that bad, just take a look at that.
I mean, you're talking about different levels of, we've talked about this, about numerous amounts of quarterbacks, about who we feel is worthy of starting and who is actually good. Jameis Winston is the most qualified to start on your guys' roster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's like a top 15 quarterback. So like, I feel like
I agree with that.
There's a distinction between that, but I would say I will agree with you in the fact that Jameis Winston has the most amount of talent on your guys' roster, which I'm sorry, that sucks, but that's, it's, who knows? I mean, maybe he's going to be able to turn it around. I look at him as someone who is a
Jameis
gunslinger.
Makes bad decisions.
Yeah.
Jameis makes bad decisions. He makes bad mental things, like talent wise. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to like it, but like, as far as arm talent, he's got more arm talent than Kirk Cousins, not even close. Now, is he very consistent in getting the ball to his receivers? No, Kirk Cousins is more consistent at that. But as far as talent-wise, Jameis is more talented. Period.
So are you saying that is it accuracy? Like, I guess what part of like the talent, is it like the reading of the play, or is it the just how he's able to throw the ball mechanically? Like, what is it that separates him from Kirk Cousins? Because I'm just talking about from an arm talent perspective. Like Jameis can make throws that Kirk Cousins can't make. Okay. Now, is he gonna be accurate on it? Not all the time. Sure.
But he can get it. It's physically possible for him to get it there. And there's some throws that Kirk just can't get there because of his arm talent.
Okay.
And we've talked about Kirk Cousins a lot. Kirk Cousins is a starting NFL quarterback. I just wouldn't feel comfortable with him winning a Super Bowl.
Yep. No, you know what? Even though I have come to Kirk's defense a lot, there are a ton. It's over half of the fan base here in Minnesota who feels the same exact way as you do. When we signed him with his massive contract, they didn't want him here. They said he's not going to bring us to win a Super Bowl, and they make that point every year at the beginning of our season. I always come back and say he's the best quarterback that we've had since Brett Favre, which was only a 1.5 year thing, and the 2010 season was completely forgettable with what he did. He got injured in Chicago, it never came back, and it was a garbage season. But that's
I generally agree with everything you said, but I would have liked to have seen how Teddy's career would have been had he not gotten that brutal leg injury. I don't know if it would be any different or not. Maybe not, but He looked like he was really progressing before he got hurt.
I thought one of the knocks on Bridgewater was that realistically his downfield accuracy wasn't that great. So, you know, I don't know if they were looking at him as to be more of a quarterback that can hit you mid-range and then also be more mobile. You know, we just never got to see that because of his knee injury. But it's hard to say. I mean, you look at it now, and I'm glad that we didn't go through all that, because I think the wounds of Christian Ponder, you know, just
Forgot about him.
Yeah, that was awful.
Oh, I totally forgot about that guy.
Yeah, so
awesome.
Going from Christian Ponder to Teddy Bridgewater, there was hope, but I wasn't necessarily about ready to, you know, jump all in on it. But so, okay,
True.
we are going to be moving on here. We have we are going to be moving into more of our fantasy segment here, and we're going to be starting with our swimming upstream. Last week we had our guest that we had on last week, Mr. Garlic Johnson. He picked Teddy Bridgewater. He did not do so hot for us. He got us 11.98 points, not exactly what you wanted to see. And so that pretty much ends our regular season when it comes to streaming fantasy quarterbacks and you know, keeping a tally on it. This week is going to be our bye week, so we can see how we finished compared to all the other quarterbacks with 13 weeks of play. As of right now, it looks like unless everybody dies in a giant fire, we will be not in the top 12 by the end of this week. Currently, we are sitting at quarterback number 12 with 211.52 points. This week 13, our top 12 quarterbacks overall were Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, and Zach Wilson, which is kind of a surprise. This week, if you were to look for a quarterback, we can suggest quarterbacks, but we're not really going to keep track of the score. Like, again, we said this is our bye week. But if you are looking for advice on a quarterback to stream, Jack has made his pick, but I'm going to run through a few of the selections that we have right now that are available in our league, the Victoria's Secret Fantasy Football League. We have Cam Newton, Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Fields, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Matt Ryan, Jake Fromm, and Davis Mills. Jack said that he would be picking Cam Newton if we were going to be having a pick this week. Face, when you listen to the names from that list that I just gave you, I don't know if you're looking at it as well, is there anybody on there that you would want to pick, not necessarily would want to pick, but that you would pick from that list? On who would you want to start this week?
Who does oh yeah, well, I guess it's too late to pick Ben, huh? I probably would have picked Ben, but since he's already started, man, honestly, it's going to sound weird, but Davis Mills, is he playing this week? Because I hate all the rest of these guys' matchups. Or, oh, no, Ryan Tannehill. Crap. Yeah, Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. You'd play Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, for sure.
If it was me, I would have picked.
Yeah,
I would have probably picked Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, actually, I believe he's had a few good weeks. Put back.
I think he's had I think he's been top 12 like 3 of the last 4 weeks or something.
Yeah, they were talking about him on the footballers for sure. I'm just pulling him up here real quick.
Maybe 2 out of the last 3.
Something like that. Yeah, 2 out of the last 3. Week 11, week 13, he's had right around 20 points. And you know, he's had clunkers of games, no doubt, but I think with Deontay Johnson, and I still think Big Ben is smart. He might not have all the physical attributes to be a top tier quarterback, but I feel like he would be able to be smart enough to be able to exploit our secondary, which has not been very good. So that would be the reason that I would pick Ben Roethlisberger. I know it's also it can be a real goat rodeo since it's a Thursday night game. You really don't know what you're going to get out of fantasy performances. Generally, it's not that great, but we've been surprised this year. So essentially you're just banking on Ben Roethlisberger finding the end zone a few times.
I'll say something about old quarterbacks here. There's levels of being washed. Okay, so like 2 years ago, Drew Brees looked fine. Last year, he looked totally washed. Whenever Tom Brady in his last year in New England, everyone said he was washed. Well, guess what? He didn't have any receivers to throw the ball to. That's why he wasn't throwing the ball very much or very deep or getting good stats because he didn't have wide receivers. Julian Edelman, a 34-year-old slot guy coming off an ACL tear, was his best wide receiver. How do you think it's going to go? So, and obviously he's not washed. And I was sitting here last week watching Big Ben. I think he threw like a 40-yard touchdown pass in the end zone to Deontay Johnson. So I'm wondering if Ben is actually the problem because he didn't look very washed on that throw. So I think he's still got some of the tools there. And I'm wondering if the real problem there and Chase Claypool's problem is just that the offensive line there is not good. I wonder if that's the real problem. He just doesn't have time to wait for those guys to get open deep. I think that may be more the problem, honestly.
So is it like a talent issue, or was their offensive line just decimated by injury this year? Because I don't even remember.
I thought they lost some guys to free agency in the offseason and stuff like that.
Okay. All right.
Not totally sure. But, I mean, their offensive line hasn't been looking good. Even Najee, most of his points come off a little passes and stuff. He hadn't been getting a whole lot of rushing yards, I don't think. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was our swimming upstream segment. So if you guys are looking for a quarterback, those are our opinions, and we'll have those marked down for you guys next week. It's not going to be like anything official, but I mean you'll be able to see, what our picks were because even though it is the last week of the regular season, somebody might need a streaming quarterback out there at some point. So we'll always give our opinion. Moving on to our next little segment here, it's still part of the streamer part of the streamer showcase. We have our streamer Showdown challenge, and last week I finally got the better of my co-host Jack. Jack picked Carson Wentz, Tevin Coleman, Devin Singletary, Van Jefferson, Rashad Bateman, Zach Ertz, and Kendrick Bourne. He had a point total of 37.9. I picked Carson Wentz, Boston Scott, Tevin Coleman, Van Jefferson, Russell Gage, Zach Ertz, and Rashad Bateman, and had a total of 50.5. So I am now. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Is profanity allowed or encouraged on this podcast?
You can say whatever the hell you want. I just choose not to. But that does not mean that you are excluded from saying whatever it is you want, as long as it doesn't break terms of service. So
okay, well get absolute shit on Jack. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Moving on. Our co-host that we had last week, our guest one, he wanted to get on in this as well. So he had Carson Wentz, Matt Breida, Wendell Smallwood, Van Jefferson, Kendrick Bourne, Logan Thomas, and Sean Jackson for a point total of 43.6. He did better than Jack, but he did not do as well as me. So I'm going to echo again what Face Esquire just said. Get shit on garlic. Absolutely. All right. So we are going to be moving on to what we have this week. This week, Jack has Taysom Hill, Deonta Foreman, Tevin Coleman, Russell Gage, KJ Osborne, Zach Ertz, and Jamison Crowder. I decided to go with Taylor Heineke, Alex Collins, Darrell Williams, Robbie Anderson, Russell Gage, Tyler Conklin, and Traquan Smith. And I totally butchered the spelling of his last name. I got an extra little letter in there. Face, you also put together a lineup as well. I didn't get a chance to make a slide for it, but I do have it here in my personal notes. Do you want to go over who you have, or do you want me just to list them off for you?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. You can list them off if you got
sure.
it.
You're going with Taysom Hill. You are also going to be choosing, let's see here, your running backs you chose was Zach Moss and Tevin Coleman. You picked AJ Green. You also picked Jamison Crowder, Tyler Conklin, and Russell Gage as your flex. We'll make sure that we get all those. We'll get those tables up there and we'll post them in the Discord so people can see what your streamer team was this week. And I'm really glad that you decided to participate along with us. It's kind of a fun thing that I just came up with a few weeks ago. I was like, hey, let's just look and see if we can find a team and just assemble just a basic team of players that are under 65%. Kind of gives you not necessarily a gut check, but like a confidence check on some of these free agents that are out there that you might be thinking about, but don't have the balls to start in a regular roster. So
it was an interesting exercise. I'll say that. Man, running back drops off bad after like 70%. It's just
tough.
a wasteland. By the way, from my research and my cursory purview of this thing, it looks like Ramondre Stevenson is only 65% owned. So go check your waiver wire and see if he's available, because I think Damian Harris is hurt. He needs to be like 95% owned at least.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention to you and Jack, the reason I don't have Tevin Coleman in my starting lineup this week is because yesterday he did enter into concussion protocol. So I'm not exactly sure if he's going to be playing this weekend. It's up in the air. If he doesn't, though, are you guys opposed to me just slotting in Ty Montgomery? I believe that's his backup.
No, it's Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson.
Ty Montgomery's in the black and gold.
That's right. Yeah, Ty Johnson. So if you guys don't have problems with that, I'll just slide him in, since he essentially would be taking over the role of what Tevin Coleman should be doing. So
that backfield sucks.
That whole team it's brutal.
Michael Carter could be pretty good. He reminds me of DeAndre Swift a little bit, but we'll see how it goes.
Right on. All right, so let's see here. Of course, I got off from where I wanted to go. Was on my notes page. There we go. I'm getting back to it. All right. Moving on here. That is pretty much going to do it for our fantasy streamer segment. This next segment that we have essentially is just going to be a little bit it's our little chit chat about what's going on in the community, ways you can interact with us, things like that. We have this nice little segment that we like to call Discord discussion. And this is pretty much a segment where if you're not in the Discord, first off, join the Discord. Absolutely. It's there in our link in our show description. And we'll answer some of the questions that the viewers and the listeners ask us. And we only had one question last week, so this is actually going to be a really short segment, which is fine. Garlic Johnson asked me, has Walters been an all-knowing football god this entire time? Galaxy brain, all the wrinkles. Now I'm assuming that this might have to be due to me picking the Detroit Lions last week over the Minnesota Vikings, but
that's a spicy take, dude.
I tried asking him to clarify, and he wouldn't give me the light of day on that one. But I'm gonna say that I don't think I'm all-knowing Galaxy brain, but a lot of these podcasts are like, what are you feeling in your gut? Your opinion is, what are you feeling in your gut? And last week I wasn't comfortable making the pick. Like, I would have never put money on it, but like, I didn't feel good about the Vikings' chances to win that football game last week. Like I stated before when I made the pick, the first time the Vikings played the Lions, it came down to the last play. Did they go into overtime? I don't even know. All I know is that the Lions were in a position they should have never been in the first place, and I figured that they were looking for blood. And they came out and they whooped that ass last week. So congrats to the Lions and Jared Goff, I guess. But whatever. So
are they that bad? They've been in games this year. I mean, who was the other team? The Ravens. Yeah, when Justin Tucker kicked that 68-yard field goal, that was against the Lions. As the clock ran off. I mean, I don't think the Lions are that bad.
I mean, their record says otherwise, and their quarterback
never mind. I take it all back.
Their quarterback is just awful. I mean, who's the head coach over there? I want to say Dan Campbell, but I don't know if that's right though.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Okay.
I love that guy. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember who he was talking about. Maybe DeAndre Swift or something. But they asked, like, yeah, what's Swift's chance to play? He said, oh, he's about 60-40, trending towards 50-50. It's like, what does that mean? I don't have any idea what that means. That's great, though.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure he was just absolutely thrilled to know that when he was coming into Detroit, that his MVP caliber quarterback was leaving and he was getting Jared Goff. I can't imagine he was too excited about that. And I mean, I wouldn't be, but he is an NFL quarterback. He is better than I will ever be at football. And so I guess I can't really blame him or shame him for that. But
he is not a starting NFL quarterback anymore. No. I'm sorry.
No,
and that's how you win right there. You win by attrition in this case. Say, hey, we want to make sure we secure the number one pick. Well, how are we going to do that? Oh, let's get Jared Goff as our starting quarterback. That'll shore it up. That's how you do it. That's their plan. Great plan.
Great plan indeed. I also just wanted to catch up on chat here real quick. Our lovely co-host right at the beginning said, where's that handsome host that's normally on the show? He says he misses him. If you show up to work, you would be able to see yourself, but you've decided not to show up to work. And so I don't know, man. So it's hard to say.
Feels like a Jerry Springer episode, dude. A lot of tension in the room. A lot of tension.
I'm not mad. The guy deserves a vacation. So I said willingly, fine, you can go on your vacation. I'll allow it just this once. So
that was nice of you, man. You're a nice guy, Walters.
Well, I'd like to think so. All right, we're done with all that. We are going to be moving on into the section of our podcast that's more. It has a focus of our league of record, the Victoria's Secret Fantasy Football League, but I urge people to stick around because we talk a lot about fantasy matchups and the players that are in them, not just what happened in the league. And so a lot of these matchups that we talk about they might actually hit home. There's people who are thinking like, who the hell am I going to start this week? Because I've got bye weeks. I've got people who are injured. I've got Alexander Madison in my lineup. Am I playing him? Am I not playing him? So, I mean, we're always talking to the crowd here, the bigger crowd than just our league, about what's going on and what our fantasy opinions are on these players. So we encourage you guys to just hang out here for a few minutes while we get through some paperwork with our league, and then we'll be diving into this week's matchups coming up here pretty quick. With that being said, we are going to get into our matchups from week 13. And here we go. And we're going to transition right now. All right. So last week, I was a top 6 scorer. Again, week 12, 13, and 14 in our league, since we are a 12-team league. We have decided to play everybody once head-to-head, and then the last 3 weeks are a free-for-all. So if you get a top 6 score, you are the winner of that week, and I happen to be a top 6 score, along with Jay, who is Grocery Store Joe, Tyler, who is team name The ER, Ben, who is RIP in Peace, who is a high score of the week, Call of Duty Warzone, that would be my boy Jordan, and Don Julio. Those were your 6 winners this past week. Ben, RIP in peace, had a monster of a week. And when I say monster of a week, it was definitely a monster of a week. We have standard scoring here, so this is not PPR or anything like that. But I just thought that with a score that impressive of 165.1, that he deserves to have his whole team read off from last week. And let's see if I can bring that up here. I have it. Week 13. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, here we go. Matt Stafford last week in week 13 had 24 points. Jonathan Taylor had 24 points. David Montgomery had 20 points. Michael Gallup, his lowest scoring player of the week, had 9.6. Van Jefferson had 10.1. George Kittle had 30.6. Alexander Madison had 18.4. The Colts defense had 13. And Matt Gay, his kicker, had 15 points. So just a stacked lineup. And we'll be getting more into his into his matchup here coming up.
It's a buzzsaw, dude. I wouldn't want to run into that team in the playoffs. Of course,
No,
they don't have Madison anymore, so that might help.
All right. Let's see. Let's move on to our next one. So our next segment that we have here, real quick, is our standings. Since Ben and I both ripped off a win last week, we are both sitting at 9-4. We are a lock for the playoffs. We were a lock for the playoffs last week. This week is just going to determine seeding between us. It doesn't really matter who gets the 1 or 2. I mean, it might matter, but we both will have buys in week 1, pretty much regardless. I think Ben has like a 0.05% chance to be the 3rd seed, but that's not going to matter. Then you have Tyler, Jordan, and Foster. And then there's Jay. Those are our top 6 teams right now. And then an interesting nugget in 7th place. Katie Don Julio is tied with Foster and Jay for the record, and it's going to come down to this week. You got 3 people with the same record, and 2 of them are only going to get into the playoffs, so someone is going to be left out. At the bottom of the standings, you see that my co-host Jack and Cassie, they are both sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard. And whoever comes in last place will have to do NFL combine drills before next year's fantasy draft. So there definitely is that. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. I don't know what. No, I didn't. Okay, I'm good. Moving on, we have this here is just kind of a website that our commissioner went to it to give us some statistics, and you can kind of see what some of the percentages are here. The thing that I really wanted to focus on was the bottom 3 ones. You have Foster, who is Kiss My Bass, Jay, Grocery Store Joe, and then Katie, Don Julio. Those are the 3 teams that are going to be battling for the final 2 playoff spots. And Katie is definitely on the outside looking in when it comes to getting like 5th place, but she is sitting at a better percentage than what Foster is in 6th place. So I think it really is going to be between Foster and Katie this week to see who's going to snag up that last team. And if Katie beats out Foster, that is going to be huge because Foster's team is absolutely electric. If he's not the 2nd most scoring points in the league, he's got the 3rd, and he's had some just outrageous weeks this week. So we are definitely going to see what's going on there.
So what is this percentage chance of them making the playoffs?
Correct. Yeah. Is playoffs or
How do you
just
do
where?
this? That's a cool little deal.
I'll get a hold of my commissioner and I will see, because I think it was a 3rd-party website that
I'm sure
to get this stuff. So I'll have to see if I can forward this link to you somehow.
Okay.
Moving on, we're gonna move into what we had for our waivers. Our waivers ran today, and up at the top of the leaderboard, or not a leaderboard, at the top of the page, you see that Josh, Da Cream rises to the top. He spent, I'm assuming it's all of his fab. I'm not sure.
69.
He spent $69 on the Packers defense. I don't know if you know or not, he is the resident Packer fan in our league. So that's a yikes. Since most of us here are Vikings fans in our home league. So
they've got a good matchup this week. And I think I don't have any leagues right now where I've got defense special teams, but defense and special teams are like super important in the playoffs. So you got to like play a week ahead and stuff on those things. So I kind of like this if they're depending on the future matchups.
Yeah. I don't think Josh is in contention for a playoff spot this year, which is unfortunate for him.
That's probably because he's spending $69 on the Packers defense. Those kind of decisions don't lend themselves to making the playoffs.
I think we'll have to get into it because we'll be able to see his full roster. But I think he's had some injury issues. I think he drafted pretty well. He just he had some pretty tough breaks. Moving on, we have Antonio Brown was picked up by Ben for $20. He's going to be going straight to his bench since he's not going to be able to be played until week 16? Yeah, I think it's the semis that he can come back. The Saints defense was picked up for $10. Cam Newton was also picked up for $13. KJ Osborne was picked up for $9. What else we got here? Jake Elliott was picked up for $1. Chargers defense was picked up for $1. I mean, Adrian Peterson, $0. Not too,
Gross.
Jeff Wilson.
You overpaid.
Jeff Wilson Jr., $0. That might be interesting if Elijah Mitchell doesn't go. Matt Prater, $0. This one here is kind of interesting since, do we know if Mike Williams is in COVID protocol, correct? And
he was a close contact with Keenan Allen. He hasn't actually tested positive.
Okay, all right. So he still has a chance to play this weekend then.
And he's also unvaccinated. So they have to keep testing him, I think, for a couple of days.
Okay. Does Jalen Guyton do anything for you?
Oh, absolutely not. He's in the wide receiver 3 infinite sadness.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you can start him, or you can start Jameson Crowder, or probably 10 other guys that are on the waiver wire right now. They're all the same player. You know, Jalen Guyton may have some upside that Crowder doesn't, but Crowder's usually more consistent for 8 to 10, 12 points, somewhere in that range. And, you know, Guyton, I don't know, he could go out there and put up a 0. So if you need a high upside, maybe go with Guyton, but otherwise just go get somebody safe off the waiver wire that you know is going to get you some points.
Yeah. Are any of these names that were listed on here, do any of them do anything for you? Like, I think the guy who has the biggest fantasy impact is most likely going to be, it's between Antonio Brown and Cam Newton. I don't want to rule out any of the defenses, but talking about a single player, Cam Newton or Antonio Brown might have the biggest effect. Antonio Brown, not right away, just when he comes back. But Cam Newton, I thought I heard over their bye week that they got rid of their offensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see what Cam Newton can do in the next couple of weeks. And he might actually prove to be somewhat viable in the playoffs, especially as a quarterback too.
Not putting any of my eggs in the Cam Newton basket. I watch him throw. He is actually washed as far as throwing the ball. Now, he still runs the ball fine, but he just, the arm is not there anymore. And Jeff Wilson I would be interested in him. I've got him on a couple of teams and just waiting for Elijah Mitchell to get hurt, because that's what San Francisco 49ers running backs do. They get hurt, and then it's next man up. So there you go.
Right on. Okay. All right. I don't think there's anything else here that I have much interest to talk about in. We are going to be moving into our next portion of the show here, which is going to be our matchup previews. So I'll transition. Nope, not yet. Hold on. Let's see here. That one. We're transitioning. Okay. All right. So our first matchup that we have here is going to be between Jay and Jack. Grocery Store Joe is Jay right on the left, and Jack is on the right. I'm going to be bringing up my scoreboard here on my bigger monitor so I can actually read these things. Just give me a second here. We are coming. All right. As of right now, Jay on the left-hand side is projected 88.5 to Jack's 93.5 over on Jay's side, the left side. He's got Tom Brady and Alvin Kamara in this week. How do you feel about DJ Moore in your starting lineup? Do you think DJ Moore is going to have more of an impact fantasy-wise with the new offensive coordinator this week?
Absolutely not. I love DJ Moore as a player. I put him in kind of the same category as like a Terry McLaurin, like both really good down the field guys, excellent wide receivers. Neither one of them have a quarterback. I just said I didn't like Cam Newton. I didn't think he could throw the ball. So that makes me have no faith whatsoever in DJ Moore. Love the player, hate the situation.
Okay. Sitting on his bench, he doesn't have much to choose from. Would you rather play Brandon Cooks over DJ Moore in that spot?
I think I'd probably just take my chances with DJ Moore because, it's not like Brandon Cooks is in a great situation either, And I think overall DJ Moore is definitely a better player. So Guess I'll just roll with DJ Moore there.
Okay. Looking over on the other side of the matchup, there's Cam Newton sitting up there. Saquon Barkley is in his RB1 spot. What is now? I feel like Saquon Barkley has probably been one of the biggest busts of the 2021 fantasy football season. Do you have any faith that he has anything left in the fantasy tank for this season, or are you just viewing him as a running back 2 / flex play?
Well, I've got faith in Saquon Barkley, Walters. I just traded for him last week, and then you made a nasty little comment underneath it too, if you recall. What did you say? Somebody just got ripped off or something like that. I assumed that you were talking about the other guy. No, I think I traded Chuba Hubbard and Alexander Madison for Saquon last week. I've been trying to get Saquon off that dude all year, and then I finally had 2 bench players to get him, so I did it. Look, if you look at Saquon's year, he came back slowly off the ACL from last year. First couple of games were trash. Then he started picking it up. He tore the Saints apart, dude. I think he had like 25 points that game, 25 points, half PPR that game. Just ripped them up. He had 2 good games in a row, and then he got hurt again on a freak injury. And he's kind of doing the same thing, had a couple of slow games, and I'm hoping it gets built back up. I mean, the talent is there. Just need to get him rolling,
Yeah, I hear you. I would agree with you on all of that. Like, obviously, the guy is talented. He's young, and injuries have plagued him, and it have really. It's been the focal point of his career. When it comes to fantasy, my confidence in him is like just. I feel like there's so many other running backs I would want to play in front of him, which that's not that bold of a take. I feel like once the Giants finally get a better offensive scheme going, I don't know if it's an O-line issue or whatever. I feel like
it's an O-line issue, yeah.
They Saquon could be that player that everybody thought he was going to be coming into the league. So they've got some things to figure out from where he wants to go. My fantasy opinion on the guy is I will pick him at the right value, but I won't put a lot of stock into how much faith or how much confidence I have in the guy until I see it. It's kind of like a wait and see type of deal, but he might be able to surprise us, but I don't see too much.
So another reason, and then we can move on from Saquon, but I just wanted to say this, is that Saquon is a guy who, to me, in my eyes at least, he's very high upside. I mean, he can win you a week any given week. He's that kind of player. And this is actually good. This is Jack's team. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a good little mix of high upside with Saquon and Amari. Those are high upside guys. He's got a good mix with some kind of safe guys like Keenan Allen and Travis Kelce, who are going to get you guaranteed points every week. So that's a good way to make a lineup.
Jack, his team, I feel like Jack has probably been the guy this year whose team has been affected by injuries the most, or just not the players not performing. You look at Travis Kelce, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Saquon Barkley, all those players there are you would think that would be enough to just, you might not be the best player, but you're going to be a top 6 player. The injury to Saquon has just destroyed him. It was, I believe that was his that was his 2nd round pick because he picked Travis Kelce. Speaking of Kelce has had the worst year that he's had in I don't know how many different seasons. He has been also just a giant bust. Amari Cooper has been inconsistent.
Still tight end 1 though, right?
He maybe. Let's take a look. Yeah, he is tight end 1. Yeah, he still is for sure. Amari Cooper has underperformed this year. For sure. He is wide receiver 30, drafted high in our draft. Keenan Allen, he's sitting at 17. How old is this guy? He's been around for...
He's 29.
Is he 29? So he's been in the league for, 5-6 years? Somewhere right around there?
Probably 6 or 7. I'll go check him out real quick.
Do you feel that position rank 17, so mid-tier wide receiver 2, do you think that's what you were expecting when you drafted Keenan Allen this year, or do you still expected him to be a top 12 wide receiver this year?
I usually expect Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a pretty consistent player, man. He just does what he does. He goes out there and catches 7 to 10 balls every week for 65 to 100 yards. He'll mix in a touchdown every once in a while, then have you a 20, 25 point week. So I always put him right around, like, if I was doing rankings, probably somewhere between like 11 and 15. So he can certainly break into the top 12 and being a wide receiver one. But he's not the upside guy, though. He's a safe player. And like I've got Keenan Allen on my team every single year in almost every single league just because I want those guaranteed points and I can count on him.
Yeah, solid floor player. I hear what you're saying, and I would agree with that a lot. He is a solid floor player, consistent, but he, for some reason, and I don't know why, because I figured with the growth of Herbert and how well he's done this year, that you would be able to break open, a few more giant games. So,
Keenan Allen's first year was 2013. He has been around a while. He's 29.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I would call him, he's in the twilight of his career. I feel like 3 to 4 years ago was probably, from what I can remember, probably his biggest fantasy years. I could be off just a year or two, but
I think he's been about the same for the last 4 years. But the thing about Keenan Allen is I could actually see him play until he's 34, 35 and not really losing that much effectiveness, because Keenan Allen in the combine ran like a 4.55. He was slow at the combine. He's not a fast guy. He's not super athletic. He's just very good at getting open. He runs great routes and gets open. I mean, you don't need to be fast to do that. So,
okay, yeah, I generally agree. So, I'm going to be moving on to our next matchup here. Just for the record, I'm going to say, based off of the matchups that I see here, I don't know if Jay is going to be a top 6 team this week. He has a better shot than what I think Jack has, just because recency bias tells me that Cam Newton hasn't been good. Saquon hasn't been super productive as a RB1. And Amari has been just weird. So I feel like Jack has the potential to get there, but most likely will not see it. Moving on to our next matchup here, we have Foster, who is on the left, Kiss My Bass, versus Cassie, who is on the right, the underdogs. And Foster is projected 103, and Cassie is projected 92.4. Over on the left side here, Foster, this is one of the teams I'm very scared of to face in the playoffs. So if he doesn't make it, it'll be literally an upset because his team is stacked. He's got Josh Allen, Leonard Fournette, Jamal Williams this week, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Mark Andrews, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cowboys defense, and Tyler Bass sitting on his bench. He's got some pretty good players on his bench. He picked up Devontae Parker last week, which I think it might come into play. What do you think about this team when you look at it? I mean, you were talking about how Ben's team earlier was kind of a buzzsaw when he had Matt Stafford and Van Jefferson and those players on his team. But this team here feels like this is like, if this team goes off, which it has, it is going to be very, very difficult to overcome this team if he makes the playoffs. What are your thoughts on this team?
Obviously, like Josh Allen, the immediate weakness I see here is running back. So, like, Leonard Fournette's been getting a lot of work and is very much outperforming. You could argue that Leonard Fournette is the MVP of this fantasy year, man. He's been awesome, and he has just sucked the last couple of years. But after that, I don't see a whole lot of running back talent here. You got Jamal Williams. I've never liked him. He's slow and not really a bulldozer either. Apparently, he catches the ball for some reason, but don't do that because he's going 3 miles an hour with it after he catches it. Then you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who hasn't really done anything in his entire career, and I'm starting to wonder if he's even actually good at football. So his wide receivers are great. You got Adams and Evans. Those dudes are awesome. Mike Evans is one of my favorite players. Just like watching him play, super physical guy. But I see an immediate weakness with running back, and I don't know who he's got on his bench that he could start over them. Maybe he's got Dalvin Cook on his bench or something. I don't know, but
the players that he has on his bench, he's got Emmanuel Sanders, Elijah Mitchell, Devontae Parker, Dontrell Hilliard, Jeff Wilson Jr., He's got Jalen Guyton and then Tyler Conklin. So, I mean, he's definitely starting his best lineup right now.
Yeah.
The thing I like to say about Foster's team, sorry about that, that his team is like it almost feels like it's the home run team. Like, they might be inconsistent, but like the weeks that they go off, they go off. So
and that's how you win. That's how you win in fantasy, man. You got to have those upside weeks, and he's definitely got upside players here with like Evans and Adams. Adams is actually a really consistent player too, but Evans is like one of those upside guys. Evans can single-handedly win you a fantasy week with 5 touchdowns and 300 yards or something weird. You know, he's that kind of guy.
And it's crazy with the amount of talent that they have on that team, especially when in the wide receiver room, that he still gets the volume that he does. I mean, because Godwin and you've got Gronk, and I mean, it's just insane how well Tom Brady has done spreading around the ball to make that whole offense just be so dominant this year in fantasy. It's just nuts. I'm going to say that Foster has a very good chance to be a top 6 team this week. The running back, Jamal Williams, and then Mike Evans. I'm kind of nervous about Mike Evans playing Buffalo. They seem to have a decent defense, and they might be a little pissed off from Monday night's doozy of a game. So, but other than that, I don't see any issues with your players.
Didn't Tre'Davious White, isn't he out for the year? I'm almost positive he had a season-ending injury.
Yeah, that's possible.
So that's a big deal for Mike Evans, because if he's going up against their number 2 guy, good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah, I stand corrected then. So. Good point. Thanks for pointing that out. Moving on over to Cassie's team real quick over there. She's got Dak Prescott, Dalvin Cook, Darrell Williams, Terry McLaurin, Marquise Brown, Dalton Schultz, OBJ, Cardinals, and Daniel Carlson. At the beginning of this year, it was kind of a mixed bag. Excuse me one sec. I got to close my office door here real quick. I felt like the star power that she had on her team had really high ceilings, and it was really gonna, like, how consistent can her team be this year? And some people liked the upside of her team, and some people hated that there was, the floor of her team was really inconsistent. I feel like if things would have broke her way, she would have been absolutely a contender this year. Terry McLaurin and Marquise Brown and OBJ. Especially OBJ has really, I think, underperformed what they were projected to do this year. Terry McLaurin and Marquise Brown have had flashes this year of being really good wide receivers for fantasy, but haven't consistently done it across the whole season. At one point, you could get a king's ransom for Hollywood Brown, but I don't know if anybody wants any part of that right now.
So how it's so uncomfortable to do that. But like, you've got this guy, he's never played this high of a level. You can trade him for, like, I don't know, a low end RB1 and get you a solid running back for Marquise Brown. You got to do it. It feels uncomfortable. That's like me trading for Saquon when Saquon's been just dog water. It felt really uncomfortable. Just do it. If you trust your evaluation of the players. But I actually like this team. Other than Darrell Williams, if she had another good running back, I would really like this team. Obviously, McLaurin's not in the best situation, and I think Beckham might be okay before the end of the year, but it looks like it's going to be too little too late for her.
Yeah. She does have Swift, who is on the bench. So she had some depth, and she also had Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders, he's had just a rough season as well. So you could
throw him in that bust category for the year too. He's been a huge bust.
Yeah. Looking at any of these players, she has a wide receiver, Jarvis Landry, sitting on her bench right now. Would you play Jarvis Landry over any of the 3 wide receivers that you see on the screen?
I'd drop Jarvis Landry and put him on the waivers, dude. What are you doing? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't start Jarvis over anybody in the starting lineup. Maybe Darrell Williams, but you can't do that. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Not too much else to go on that. Cassie, I mean, she always projected high, but it's, like I said, with the consistency of her team, it's she doesn't always make it. I always root for her. I think she has a chance to make top 6, but we'll have to see. Moving on to our next.
Dalvin Cook's doing all right for her tonight, though. He's got 5 carries for 73 yards with 2 busted shoulders. What a champion.
Let's go. All right, we're going to move on so we can actually go watch football here shortly. Moving on to our next matchup, our third matchup. We have RIP in peace, Ben, versus the Kareem rises to the top, Josh. Over on the left side is Ben's team. He's got Matt Stafford, David Montgomery, Chase Edmonds, Michael Gallup, Van Jefferson, George Kittle, Russell Gage, Panthers, and Matt Gay. I'm going to go right out and say, even though he's only projected 85.2, I love his matchups that he has this week. Arizona is going to be a tough matchup, but I still feel like the talent level of Matt Stafford can make Van Jefferson have a week, any given week, against any team. So I have a lot of confidence in Ben, what he's doing. I am scared to face him in the playoffs. He is definitely, in my opinion, going to have a top 6 team. One thing to note, his running back Chase Edmonds will not be in next week because on Ben's bench, he has this little player by the name of Jonathan Taylor. And that guy has been an absolute freaking stud this year. So
I was about to ask why you're so afraid of this guy's team, but that makes a little more sense now.
Yeah, he's got some good players sitting on his bench. He's also got he picked up Antonio Brown, so that could be something. So as of right now, he's in my opinion, he's got the best lineup set. He's players that he could play this week would have been Courtland Sutton, Alexander Madison. Those are the 2 only options that actually had points, and obviously he's not playing any of those players above what he has. Moving over to Josh's team over there on the right-hand side, you got Aaron Rodgers, Najee Harris, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Darnell Mooney, Pat Freiermuth. The Muth is loose. Let's go. Kareem Hunt is back, and then he's got his Packers defense and Greg Joseph. I don't see a top 6 score coming from this guy, even though he's projected 91.6. He's got on his bench, he's got Ronald Jones as a player he could play. You're not playing him. Would you play the Bills versus Buffalo or the Packers versus Chicago? Because he's got the Bills defense on his bench. Would you still play the Packers?
The Bills versus who? You said the Bills versus Buffalo.
I'm sorry.
Who do they play?
Tampa Bay. They are playing Tampa Bay.
Oh, I'd play Green Bay for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to go against Tampa Bay's offense, do you?
No, not necessarily. I don't think so. No. That'd be interesting to note, to see how defenses have done against Tampa Bay. I don't know if they have an option for that, but that's all right. Looking at Josh's team, I feel like Josh has his lineup set to the best of what he has. Those names that I named off of his bench there don't really do anything for me. Is there anything out of his starting lineup that raises any interest out of you when you look at his team?
We're looking at the Kareem.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, that's okay. Right. Yeah, the guy on the right.
It looks like he hit the tight end lottery with the Muth. So congratulations on that. I mean, I would say his running backs are pretty safe. He's got Najee and Josh Jacobs. Darnell Mooney is kind of a wild card to me, especially with Justin Fields coming back. Obviously, you got the upside guy with Hill, but Mooney, I don't know. Watching him, he is fast. He's very fast when you watch him. He's definitely undersized, but I feel like he could end up being like that Hollywood Brown type of player. So if he starts playing like that, this could actually be a pretty tight little squad there.
His fantasy season, Darnell Mooney's, I wouldn't say it's necessarily been like bipolar when it comes to fantasy scores, but like I'm looking at a score. Last week he only got 2.7 points against Arizona, which is understandable. Arizona has a very good defense, and in my opinion, I think they are my Super Bowl favorite as for this year. But then you look back the 3 previous weeks, and he's had 12.5, 18.1, and 17.5 in a non-PPR. And then you have a couple of games where he just has a handful of points, and then he has a double digit. So he has been great. He just needs to have a little bit more consistency. And I think the quarterback carousel that has been the Chicago offense this year probably has a lot to do with that. So I think if there's able to have some consistency at the quarterback position, Darnell Mooney should be, in my opinion, a fantasy stud wide receiver this year. I would have no problem plugging him in as a wide receiver too, and just letting him sit there no matter what the matchup is. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably drop him down a little bit. I would probably have him more in the wide receiver 3 flex area, but yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't have any Darnell Mooney in any league, but if I did, I would have absolutely no problem plugging him into my flex. That's what you want. Gives you some upside, gives you some downside too. So you got to take the good with the bad. But in general, I agree with what you said. Yeah.
Okay, we are going to be moving on to our 4th matchup. And let's see here. We have Tyler, the commissioner, the ER, versus his wife, Don Julio. That is Katie. We have here on Tyler's side, the left-hand side, the ER, Lamar Jackson, Javonte Williams, Devonta Freeman, Jamar Chase, Elijah Moore, Ricky Seals-Jones, Joe Mixon, the Broncos defense, and Mason Crosby. This guy right now is sitting in 3rd place. When you look at his team, it doesn't.
I hate it.
It doesn't seem super scary, but the names that he has on his bench, he's got Derrick Henry and AJ Brown on his bench. He's got Ayuk on his bench. I'm surprised he doesn't have Ayuk in there. I don't know. Would you rather play Ayuk or Jamar Chase at this point? Let's see how Jamar Chase is doing.
Oh, I'd play Jamar Chase. I'll tell you what I would do with this lineup. I don't know if he's going to actually start it this way that he has it, is I would move Mixon up in Freeman's place, and then I would probably start Ayuk over Freeman. I hate Devonta Freeman. I don't hate him, but he's toast, man.
Devonta Freeman last week had 15.5 points against Pittsburgh's terrible defense. I'm not sure how good Cleveland's run defense is this week. I thought they had a pretty decent defense, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Cleveland's defense is really good, especially their front 7.
Joe Mixon's been good this year. Like, I had
Joe Mixon's been awesome.
He has been awesome. I was like, I shared the opinion that you had of Jonathan Taylor going into the season. I shared that opinion about Joe Mixon. I didn't have a lot of faith in the guy. I didn't really believe in him, but he has been awesome this year for fantasy, and that's good to see, because the more better players there are, the better it is for fantasy. So, I've
always believed in Joe Mixon. I've always had him on my teams, but this year I kind of gave up to him because the word was the Cincinnati line was going to suck again, and just you got your rookie quarterback coming off of an ACL tear, so I kind of gave up on him, and I hate myself for it because I love. Joe Mixon's not necessarily, I don't know. He seems like a nice enough guy. He's done some bad stuff in his life. He seems to have gotten over that. So good for him. But as a football player, he can play some football, man. He's an awesome football player.
Can you try and rejoin the Grid Fam? Your
oh, did I pop out?
Yeah.
That's weird. I'm calling in.
Okay. Do I need to refresh it? Maybe I need to refresh it. I don't see anybody calling in yet. What's going on? I hate this thing sometimes.
Grid Fam stinks sometimes.
It does. I don't see you calling in, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that.
It says I'm calling in. I don't know. Weird. Well, the show must go on, right?
The show will go on. We'll just take your camera out of it for now, which is fine.
Yes. Screw my camera. No one wants to see my mug anyways.
Right here. Let's I have to go up to my browser scene here, and we're just gonna take off that. Okay. All right. Our next matchup that I was talking about, we were talking about Tyler's team here. How about Ricky Seals Jones? How do you feel about playing Ricky Seals Jones this week?
It's whatever. It's tight ends in general. After like the first 3 or 4 guys, I don't really care. Just pick one.
I
Pick one and stick with it and see what happens. Because either they're going to catch a touchdown player catching a touchdown is lower than most teams. So take that into consideration possibly. But other than that, yeah, I'm not super excited about any tight end other than like Travis Kelce and George Kittle.
Yeah. I know you've talked about it all year how it's pretty much just a crapshoot after the first 3 or 4 tight ends. And Ricky Seals Jones, I feel like he has a lot of upside this week, just because he is now the only pass catching tight end out there in Washington. But I don't know if you can expect huge things out of him. So, but I definitely would be playing him. I don't even know who he had. He doesn't have another tight end on his roster. He must have dropped
Yeah,
somebody. So, all right.
just go pick somebody up. You'll be fine.
Yeah. On the other side, we have Katie's team. We have Justin Herbert, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, DK Metcalf, Mike Williams, TJ Hawkinson, AJ Dillon, Saints, and Justin Tucker. And I will have to say that if DK Metcalf and Mike Williams haven't had a better year this year, I think Katie's team would most definitely be a top contending team. It's just really unfortunate that DK and Mike Williams have just had poor fantasy seasons. When you look at this roster, what are your thoughts on this roster?
Well, first of all, I don't think Tony Pollard's pretty questionable for this week. He tore something in his foot on that touchdown run last week versus the Saints, so keep an eye on that. Yeah, I mean, TJ Hawkinson's underperformed this year. DK, and you brought up DK, he hasn't performed this year. He was doing fine until Russell Wilson got hurt. DK is a stud, and he's actually a good, just all-around receiver, but obviously, as a receiver, you're only as good as the guy getting you the ball. And so he had Geno Smith for about a month there, and now he's got a 4-fingered Russ trying to cook. So,
yeah, I have to walk that back. Yeah, that was a terrible take on my part for DK. Even with the last month of his performance, which has not topped 6 points in the last month, he's still the wide receiver 15 on the year. So, like you were saying,
yeah.
I'm looking at his stats here. He's had a fantastic first 8 weeks of the season. So, hopefully,
and remember this for drafts next year, because his value is going to drop because he did so poorly towards the end of the year. Nobody forgets how good he was at the beginning when everything was normal. So if you can go and get DK in the 3rd round next year, maybe just jump at that. He'll probably be a 2nd rounder, though. He's a good player.
I see on her bench that she has Julio Jones. Would you play Julio Jones over Mike Williams this week?
That's tough, man. Who do the Titans play? The Jags, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm starting Julio this week in the league. I actually traded for him last week. So yeah, I would probably start Julio over Mike Williams. I might start him over AJ Dillon too, to be honest with you.
I would too. I don't understand the Aaron Jones AJ Dillon stack that she has going on. I mean,
I get it. You thought it was going to be a handcuff situation, but it's more like a 50-50 situation, which is just bad for everybody.
Yeah. So she might actually, if Tony Pollard doesn't play, she might be forced to move AJ Dillon up into her running back spot, because on her bench she's got Rashad Penny and Damian Harris. Damian Harris is on bye. Rashad Penny, you're not touching with the 10-foot pole. So I mean, you're pretty much you're probably gonna have to go with the Green Bay running back stack if Tony Pollard doesn't play. But I would also agree with you that if I have Aaron Jones in my lineup, I don't think I want anything to do with AJ Dillon starting. I'll have him on my bench for if Aaron gets hurt. I'd most likely put in Julio Jones over AJ Dillon, but has Julio
I think
played?
Julio's got more. I think Julio's got more upside in that offense now. Well, I say with AJ Brown being out, I don't know if that actually makes a difference, but I think Julio in general has more upside than Dillon splitting a backfield.
So last time Julio played was Week 9 against the Rams. Was AJ Brown hurt at that point, or was he playing with him?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't either. So it'd be interesting to see how Julio actually performs without AJ Brown in the mix as well. All right, we got 2 matchups left. We're gonna go through them here pretty quick, and then we'll be all done.
I'll be right back. Keep going.
Right on. Okay. Next matchup we have here, we have Jordan versus Alex. Jordan, the 4th seed. He's got Taysom Hill going. Melvin Gordon, Rex Burkhead, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Dawson Knox, Justin Jefferson, who is just killing it so far tonight. Minnesota's up 16-0 on them Pittsburgh Steelers. And you got Titans defense and Matt Prater. Sitting on Jordan's bench, he's got Russell Wilson. And I don't know, like Taysom Hill did really awesome last week with fantasy wise. He didn't look great on the field. I can't remember how many interceptions Taysom Hill had last week. I don't think it was more than 1. I know that he had 4 last week. That's a yikes. But he's playing the Jets this week, so I feel like there's obviously a little more upside to Taysom's game. Jordan definitely looks like he is playing the wait and see game with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has looked terrible since he's come back. So I can't necessarily say I blame him for wanting to start Taysom over Russell Wilson. Looking at his running backs, though, that's tough having to start Rex Burkhead. He's got Michael Carter, who is hurt. Ramondre Stevenson's on bye. And then Nwangu, you're not playing him. And then Jermichael Hasty is such a dart throw right now. Rex Burkhead definitely is your best play, even though you don't feel great about it.
Jermichael Hasty could be interesting because if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play, and Jeff Wilson also apparently had a knee flare up during the game last week. So if Jermichael Hasty is the only guy in that backfield, that's very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. It's kind of a wait and see type of deal. I think if it turns out to be that, there's still enough time for him to swap out Burkhead for Hasty, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's waiting for right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Looking at his wide receivers, he's got CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Kupp. CeeDee Lamb, his season's been pretty interesting this year. I would say most people think he's underperformed, but he has had a few weeks where he is just blown up, and it's more than a few. Like he's got what, 5 weeks with double-digit points, 2 of those weeks being over 20. He's been okay, but he's also had some real stinkers of some weeks as well, like 1.3, 2.3, 1.4. A few of those weeks are bad fantasy. Rolling into the playoffs, do you have confidence that CeeDee Lamb can get it together for 3 weeks, or how are you viewing CeeDee Lamb going into the playoffs?
And Jimbo can tell you this. That's my co-host on the Fantasy Football Hacks. I just don't have a lot of confidence in CeeDee Lamb. Like, I think he's a good player, but I think people for some reason want to put him in the little Justin Jefferson category. He's not Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's awesome. CeeDee Lamb is a good player. I don't think he's awesome. So I wouldn't feel comfortable with him as my wide receiver 1. I mean, I remember in drafts, people were taking him in like the 2nd round. At the end of the 2nd round, and I was like, what is going on here, people? Like, I don't know. That's way too high, and he's too far separated from Amari Cooper. I feel like those guys should be pretty close. They're both very good. But yeah, I'm not super confident in him, no.
In our league, he was drafted 26 overall, 3rd round.
Yeah, okay. 3rd round, yeah. Maybe it was 3rd round. That's still
It's pretty high.
Top value. That's getting the most out of that pick, and it doesn't always work out that way. Very rarely does, actually.
Looking at his bench for wide receivers, he's got KJ Osborne and Jerry Jeudy, two guys that one guy who hasn't proven himself yet in KJ Osborne, and then Jerry Jeudy, who has, I think, what most people would think has been a real down year. Of course, it's been injury riddled most of the year, but just another guy that it's you're probably, unless you absolutely have to start him, you're not starting him. But if you are starting him, you don't feel good about it at all. Any other thoughts on Jordan's team here on the left?
Not really. I was pondering that Taysom Hill, Russell Wilson question earlier that you said. I can't believe it's come to that, but that's tough, man. I need to go look at my ranks and see where I put them. I think I might start Taysom Hill, honestly. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird to say.
Yeah, it does. It'll be interesting to see with Kamara back if he is able to turn those interceptions that he has into like checkdowns that might break off a good chunk play, or if one of those plays, one of those interceptions turns into a touchdown to your running back there in New Orleans.
Yeah, I did have Taysom ahead of Russell Wilson in my ranks this week, so there you go.
Moving over to Alex's side, Hurts Donut there on the right. He's got Taylor Heineke, Antonio Gibson, Sony Michel, Chase Claypool, Tim Patrick, Kyle Pitts, Stephon Diggs, 49ers defense, and Harrison Butker. He's got Adam Thielen on his bench. He's got Jalen Hurts on his bench. He's got a bevy of running backs that you don't feel confident in starting with, like Zach Moss, Alex Collins, Jordan Howard, Tevin Coleman. Up until recently, I don't know why he's not in. Probably hasn't put him in right now just because he's in concussion protocol. But looking at Alex's team overall, I think it's, unfortunately, his team this year has just been kind of a woof. Jalen Hurts and Adam Thielen, when they're doing well, are great for fantasy. I have to figure out where his team went wrong this year. I think Antonio Gibson's probably been part of the issue. I think because that was his wide receiver.
It looks like he drafted a dynasty team. I mean, look at it. You got Kyle Pitts, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Gibson, Chase Claypool. These are all young guys who haven't really established themselves in the league yet. And Stephon Diggs was another guy. He's kind of in that CeeDee Lamb category. I mean, Stephon Diggs was going in the second round of drafts. He's going as wide receiver 2. And you've watched enough Stephon Diggs, and so have I. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but he didn't wide receiver 2. I know that. He had a great year last year, but that's not really him. He's more in that, he's alongside there Keenan Allen in that 11-15 crew. That's where he belongs. But it's just like all these guys that on his team hit their low range of outcomes. Like if everything would have worked out perfectly, he could be winning the league, but he's not,
Yeah. I will say this. Alex drafted him 13th overall, which is in the second round. So he got him back to back right after he picked Antonio Gibson. I didn't know if you knew this. I didn't know this. Stephon Diggs right now, currently the wide receiver 8, and good, solid wide receiver. But I think a lot of people may have written him off just because he hasn't had those monster weeks that you saw in and out last year as the wide receiver 1 or 2, whatever it was. I can't remember how he finished last year, but
yeah, this season is more a realistic, normal Stephon Diggs season. Like it's not. This season's probably still better than most of his seasons with Kirk Cousins. No offense, but it's still not the blow up season he had last year. But this is still in a very good season. I mean, he's a good player,
Chase Claypool, are you in a dynasty? You're probably happy to have him on your team, but in a redraft this year, he's obviously underperformed. If you are in a redraft league, are you starting Chase Claypool in any of your leagues? Or, I mean, obviously it depends on what you have on your bench, but how confident are you in Chase Claypool having any fantasy relevant weeks?
So I drafted Chase Claypool hoping he was Julio Jones, and then I figured out real quick he's not Julio Jones. I'm not very confident in Chase Claypool, and that's part of the problem for me is I don't know who he is. You look at his measurables, he's 6'4", 6'5", just huge, 230. a big boy, and he's fast too. But I'm starting to wonder if instead of like a Julio Jones, he's more like a Mike Williams kind of player. And if that's the case, that's fine. That's still a good player, but it's more like quarterback dependent, I guess you would say. He's
Yeah.
very bound by his quarterback, and that's certainly been the case this year and what's transpired there. But I'm not super confident in Claypool at all going into the playoffs. No.
Yeah, I kind of feel that same way. I think the guy has a lot of talent, and I don't know, like you said, I don't know if it's a quarterback thing. Uh, but if the offensive line was better and if Big Ben maybe had a little bit more time, Chase Claypool uh, might see some more action, which doesn't really make sense because Deontay Johnson is getting a lot of those downfield looks, and so he's able to chuck him the ball. But I just don't. It's kind of baffling to me on why Chase Claypool has been such an afterthought in the Steelers offense this year. When I'm looking at fantasy related stuff, so I don't think I have anything else that I want to talk about with this team. We're going to get into our final matchup, and it is going to be me versus Ryan. So Ryan over on the left-hand side, he has Kyler Murray, Ezekiel Elliott, Deonta Foreman, Tyler Lockett, Cole Beasley, Darren Waller, Daryl Henderson Jr., the Chargers, and Graham Gano. Looking at what he has on his bench that he could play this week, you have LaVisca, Chenault Jr., Christian Kirk, Tyler Boyd. I look at any of these players, and I don't necessarily see anybody who I would replace them with. Cole Beasley, I mean, I don't know. Would you rather play LaVisca, Christian Kirk, or Tyler Boyd over Cole Beasley?
I would start either Christian Kirk or Tyler Boyd over Beasley.
Looking at it here, Beasley hasn't had a double-digit game since week 8, and he's only had 2 double-digit games on the season. Over the last 5 weeks, he has failed to score 5 or more points. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Christian Kirk, he's part of a crowded offense. He's had more double-digit games, but more often than not, he's had single-digit games. But his most recent double-digit game did come 1 week sooner. So his last double-digit game was week 9. I feel like just with the talent of that whole team in Arizona, Christian Kirk could find the end zone. I do feel better about starting him over Cole Beasley. Other than that, like I look at his team, Ezekiel Elliott, I have no idea what to think of him. He's got me in a blender this year and moving forward. How in Dynasty or in a redraft, are you excited if you have Zeke on your team at this point in the season?
Of course not. He's everyone was talking about how he looked at the beginning of the year. They said he looked slower, and I was sitting there watching the games. He looked like Zeke. He looked fine. Now this past couple of weeks, he's looked slow. And I think he's banged up more than they're letting on. And I think Jerry Jones is a stubborn man and refuses to start the more explosive player. Zeke's still a good player. Zeke does a lot in the passing game that warrants him being in the game as far as blocking and that sort of thing. It's like having a 6 offensive lineman. He's really good at that. But no, I'm certainly not confident at all. And I feel like he's hurt and they're not telling us, to be quite frank with you. And I wish that they would give him a week off, but they can't at this point, especially Pollard's hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. He looks like he's hurt as well. And I don't know why they won't come out and say it. It's probably, tough guy thing. So looking at Ryan's roster here, I see that he's got Darren Waller in, but he also has Hunter Henry as a tight end on his bench. He's on bye, and Darren Waller's hurt, so he's going to have to get himself a tight end. Daryl Henderson, is he going to play this week? What are your thoughts on Henderson going into this week?
I think he's questionable, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a little pixie here. Daryl Henderson. Yeah, he had a limited practice today. He's got a thigh injury. If he's playing, start him up. That's kind of my philosophy. It's not a great matchup this week. I think he's got anybody on his bench that's better. So, he's a starting running back for a very good offense. If he's playing, start him up. He's a, RB2. So.
He doesn't have any other running backs on his bench except for Myles Gaskin. He's on bye this week, so he's going to be if he plays, he's forced to start him. If not, he's going to have to switch to somebody else on his team or pick up a different running back. Tyler Lockett, I don't know what to think about him. He had a good week last week. He's actually had a pretty decent last 3 weeks. When does it flip? When does Tyler Lockett become irrelevant and DK Metcalf become the superstar that we saw earlier this year? Do you think that's coming in the coming weeks, or do you think like it's just the way things are going to end for this season?
I don't think it's binary like that. I mean, Tyler Lockett will let you down when you need him the most. That's just his MO right there. But at the beginning of the year, they were pretty much both eating. Russ was cooking, throwing it to both of them. They both get open. They both do their own thing. I would actually say, I mean, you can run DK across the middle. You can't run Tyler Lockett across the middle. He's going to get decapitated in game, of course. But I think DK can actually do more things. But Tyler Lockett's a dangerous little player, and I think they can both eat as long as Russell's healthy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel confident in Tyler Lockett. He's shown this week to play him, and going into the playoffs, if you have him, he's shown more consistency over the last month. So I would feel pretty decent having to start him. I think wide receiver 2 is probably a good spot for him to just sit in nicely. Looking at the rest of Ryan's team, Kyler Murray is obviously a bona fide start play. Deonta Foreman, I mean, I don't have any thoughts or feelings on that whole Tennessee run game. It's not Derrick Henry. It's not going to be Derrick Henry. So I just don't have much faith in any of the other running backs that they have.
Pretty gross.
Yeah, it's bad. We're going to switch over onto my team. We've got Patrick Mahomes, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Rob Gronkowski, T. Higgins, the Vikings defense, and Greg Zuerlein. On my bench, I've got Debo. I'll probably slide him in if he's going to be playing over T. Higgins.
That could also muddy. We were talking about Jim Michael Hayes too while ago. That could muddy the waters for him too if Debo's active. I forgot that Debo's apparently a running back now.
Yeah. And then I also have Chuba Hubbard sitting on my bench as well. Chuba is going to stay on my bench unless he's needed at the running back position. So in my flex, I'm either going to be playing Deebo Samuel or T. Higgins. And T. Higgins, I feel confident. In this situation, like it's tough just because I have Godwin and Deontay Johnson and Debo. I don't know exactly where T. Higgins fits into all of this. But if you have T. Higgins on your team, I just feel like at this point in the season, T. Higgins is a locked and loaded player. You can set him and forget it in your lineup. He kind of had a slow start to the season because he was injured, but I feel the last few weeks have really shown how good of a player T. Higgins is, and I think the rest of the fantasy community is realizing, oh shit, yeah, T. Higgins, great player. What are your thoughts on T. Higgins rolling into the playoffs for the rest of the season?
T. Higgins is a good player. They've got a lot of mouths to feed in Cincinnati. They got Jamar Chase, they got Joe Mixon, and now T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. But the good thing is that I think it's a lot closer than it was at the beginning of the year and now. So at the beginning of the year, Jamar Chase seemed way better than T. Higgins, and now T. Higgins is kind of the sea of salt. Now T. Higgins is doing a lot better than Jamar Chase. I think they're probably closer together than we think. Like next year, Jamar Chase will probably be wide receiver 10 in the ranks, or 5 to 10, and T. Higgins will probably be 15 to 20. So they're probably pretty close. But T. Higgins, kind of a Mike Williams guy. He could win you the week or not do anything, which is kind of what he's done this year.
Looking at the rest of my roster, one of the biggest question marks on my team is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has been very frustrating when it comes to your confidence level in him. Over the last month and change, he's really had only one game that you can really write home about, and that's he put up a 36 burger, which is just a massive game for quarterbacks. Other than that, he's been pedestrian at best, and some of his matchups have been just downright awful. How do you feel if you're a Patrick Mahomes owner going into the playoffs? How are you feeling about Patrick Mahomes?
I start him and I don't think about it. I've sat here and watched Patrick Mahomes tear this league apart for 3 years, doing things that I've never seen any other human playing quarterback do. I start him and I don't think about it. He's going to be fine. He's had a little rough patch here. The first one of his career, actually, but it's going to bounce back, and I'm not worried about him at all.
Okay, cool. I don't think I have anything else really that I want to talk about with this fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to
Pretty
say,
good team, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know the show went probably a little bit longer than all of us were expecting to, but I just had a really great time just talking football with you. And I
love it, dude.
I would absolutely love to have you back. I've got plans brewing in my brain to bring you and Jimbo in here and do some off-season content. I've so many different things. I really value your opinion in football. I feel like you guys have a really great show, the Fantasy Football Hacks and the Political Hacks as well. I feel that's a really good show. I know that's a little off topic for what we do here, but if anybody is interested at all, I want you guys to go check him out. Go check out Political Hacks. Go check out the Fantasy Football Hacks. Like I said, you can find those guys on YouTube. You can find them on Twitch at Face Esquire on Twitch. If you guys need links to any of that stuff, you can check the show description. I will be adding that into the show description. And you can also find him on our Discord as well. So do that. One thing I did want to plug for you as well, Face, is you guys have a Patreon for the Political Hacks. And if anybody wants to listen to some very spicy topics that you guys don't necessarily talk about on Twitch, go check them out. You can find them at patreon.com/political hacks. So I want you guys to go check them out. Moving in, I just have a few ending announcements before we get on out of here. Check the show notes. Join the Discord if you guys want to donate or check out any of our social media links. Be sure to check out the show notes because all of that stuff is in there. Face, do you have anything that you would like to say or anything you'd like to plug before we get the hell on out of here?
No, man, you did a pretty good job plugging us there. And, I know the political stuff's not for everybody. So, if you don't care about that, don't worry about it. But, we're pretty reasonable about it. But, just thanks for having me on. This actually was fun. I always love talking ball, man. So anytime, for sure. So, and this was a good time. We got to talk about a lot of interesting players and situations. So I appreciate you letting me be here.
Right on. Okay. That's going to do it. I just want to thank everybody for coming out and checking out our podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast channel here on YouTube. We are sitting at 94 subs. We are looking to get to 100 subs so we can get our own custom URL. So I think it'd be pretty sweet to tell people to go to www.youtube.com/thevictoriouspod, but I can't yet because y'all haven't found 6 other people to share this podcast with. So your homework for this week is to go out and do that. Steal your wife's phone, steal your mother's phone, your father's phone. Just go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, our channel. Do that. It'd be a lot. It'd mean a lot to us. We thank everybody out there who has followed us, who has watched us, and listen to us on a weekly basis. We really appreciate everything. That is going to do it. Make sure you guys check out our show again. We'll be here next Thursday as well. And we will see you guys right around 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here on YouTube. Have a good night, everybody, and good luck this weekend trying to make a final playoff push. Night Face, have a good one.
Good night, dude. Are you muted?
No, I'm not muted.
Oh.
I will be muting here shortly. Well, not muting.
You.
I'll just let it play out here for a minute or two. So, this is the end portion of the podcast. We're just gonna chill out here for just a minute while I let the song finish. And yeah. So what'd you think about that? That was a hefty ep, but I thought it went pretty well.
You're definitely muted.
Oh man.